Imagine you wake up in like an elaborate escape room.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. So you're looking at the locked doors. You see the hidden clues, the cryptic puzzles painted on the walls.
And you know there's a very specific sequence you need to figure out to break free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You understand the premise perfectly. But then, I mean, imagine a completely different scenario. What if the escape room is just your house?
Oh, wow. That's a twist.
Yeah. What if the lock on the front door is, your career? And the puzzles are your interpersonal relationships. Like, what if the game itself is your entire life?
You'd probably never even realize you were playing a game.
Exactly. Would you even know you were trapped?
That framing gets right to the heart of the matter. I mean, the most effective snares are the ones we just fail to recognize as cages.
We just accept them.
Right. We simply assume they are the natural architecture of the universe.
Yeah.
We build our entire identities around the very bars holding us in.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring a highly provocative framework for looking at reality.
Highly provocative is right.
Yeah, it's a perspective that completely dismantles our fundamental ideas about freedom, duty, and human connection.
It really flips everything upside down.
It does. So our source material for this exploration is an article titled Escaping the Traps of Life, the Chapter of Wisdom, Article 54.
It was written by an author known as Deiform Buddha.
Right. And it's dated August 18th, 2006, with translation editing by Kinyu. And I will warn you right now, this philosophy does not pull its punches.
No, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
The central premise we're unpacking today argues that society's most fundamental institutions, the very things we use to measure a successful, meaningful life, are actually traps.
Traps designed to keep us from reaching paradise.
Exactly. We're going to examine the author's deeply radical solution for attaining ultimate, uncompromised freedom.
But before we can figure out how to escape, we have to understand the architecture of this prison and why we so often don't even realize we're inside it.
Which brings us to the cosmic premise.
Right. The author begins by stating that the universe contains 36 8-diagram arrays and that life is just filled with countless traps.
That reaching paradise, which the author refers to as the Elysium world, is totally impossible unless we navigate our way out of these formations.
And there's a really fascinating detail here. They note that while Buddhism traditionally speaks of the Western Pure Land, this Elysium world actually exists in all directions.
Yeah, east, south, north, all of it. Let's translate that esoteric concept for a moment.
Please do.
Think of an 8-diagram array as an invisible, metaphysical grid system placed over reality. Historically, an array was a military formation, right? Designed to disorient and capture an enemy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so by saying there are 36 of them, the author is describing this unimaginably complex labyrinth of cosmic proportions.
And the point about the Elysium world existing in all directions is crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely. It implies that paradise is not some geographical destination you have to journey toward. It's omnipresent. You are already surrounded by it, but you are locked out by these invisible arrays.
So, to explain why we don't always see those arrays, the author makes a brilliant psychological observation. It's about how our proximity to a trap dictates our level of suffering.
The war movie analogy.
Yes. The example used is watching a war movie on television. When you watch a battle scene, your heart rate might go up. You might feel a surge of emotion.
But you don't feel true, paralyzing terror.
Right, because you aren't actually in a life-threatening situation. You are completely safe on your couch.
And the author scales that logic up to real-world events to make a much broader point. They bring up the devastating South Asian tsunami, which claimed hundreds of thousands of lives.
Unimaginable tragedy.
For the people trapped in the water, it was absolute visceral agony. But for someone entirely removed from it geographically, someone who perhaps never even saw the news reports, those deaths wouldn't cause a single ripple of personal distress.
Or, bringing it a bit closer to home, the author mentions a fierce, apocalyptic fight between a married couple next door.
Oh, that's a great example.
The neighbors are throwing plates, screaming about the end of the world, entirely consumed by their own misery. But for you, sitting in your living room just a few feet away on the other side of a wall.
It's just background noise.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. It is like the difference between doom scrolling through terrible news on your phone versus actually being the subject of the news story.
That's a really modern way to look at it.
Right. The author is essentially saying that to reach paradise, we need to figure out how to put the phone down permanently and step completely out of the narrative. We have to stop anchoring ourselves to the crises happening around us.
What's fascinating here is that the author is actually taking it a step further than just doom scrolling. It's not just about voluntarily putting the phone down.
Right.
No, it's about realizing you were never obligated to pick the phone up to begin with. By using these extreme examples from global natural disasters to domestic disputes, the philosophy establishes that suffering is not an inherent, unavoidable state of the universe.
It's localized.
Exactly. Suffering is a highly localized experience. It is entirely dependent on where you have allowed your consciousness to be anchored. If you are not inside a specific trap, you simply do not feel its specific pain.
Which naturally leads us to ask, if these localized traps bring so much suffering, why on earth do human beings keep voluntarily walking right into them?
Because from the outside, the trap is disguised as a sanctuary.
Oh, that's good. And the author outlines a really comprehensive list of societal structures that function as these disguised traps. Let's look at them, because they're institutions most people consider entirely normal or even deeply noble.
Military service is a major one, they point out.
Right, and just to be clear, we are neutrally reporting the author's examples here, not taking any political sides. But the author uses the example of soldiers sent to Iraq. If you do not enlist, you do not go.
But once you join, you step into the trap of war.
Yes, and you forfeit your ability to walk away when the violence begins.
Political parties and factions operate on the exact same mechanism. Engaging in party politics means stepping into a predetermined world of power struggles and ideological conflicts.
You're suddenly part of a machine.
Right. You are forced to participate in organizational activities, and if the collective makes a disastrous mistake, you share the blame. You totally surrender your individual autonomy to the momentum of the group.
It extends even further. Religion is pointed to as a trap. The text notes that believers willingly endure repetitive moral teachings and, in the most horrifying extreme cases, might be psychologically compelled to commit acts of violence.
Like suicide bombing, the text mentions.
Right, for a supposed sacred mission. Even entire nations are categorized as traps. The author cites the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Again, just conveying the text's examples here.
Absolutely. The point being made is that if you are just a neutral observer, you can remain indifferent. But if you are an Israeli citizen or a Hezbollah member, you are inevitably bound to contribute your labor, your taxes, or your life to that conflict.
By simply claiming a label of belonging, you inherit the wars of that label.
So true.
The underlying mechanism for why we adopt these labels, according to the author, is a concept called the sweetness.
The sweetness.
Yeah, it functions exactly like a hunter scattering food in the woods or a fisherman using bait. These traps lure us in with a fragrant, intoxicating promise.
The text gives deeply relatable examples of this sweetness. It's the reason people decide to marry. It's why they join political movements, why they feel fierce patriotism for their countries.
It's a very powerful draw.
The author even poses a mythological question. Why did the 7 celestial maidens descend from heaven to the human world?
The answer is always the sweetness.
Exactly. The emotional and sensory bait is so powerful that it can even pull divine beings out of paradise. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because I have to push back a little bit on this framing.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't categorizing everything from falling in love to starting a family to caring about your local community as a trap incredibly cynical?
It definitely sounds that way at first.
Right. I mean, the author equates the sweetness of human connection with a literal hunter's snare designed to kill an animal. Are we supposed to reject all joy, all human bonding, just to avoid the potential for pain?
This raises an important question, and that tension is the absolute core of this philosophy. The author isn't denying that the sweetness is real or that it feels wonderful.
Okay, so they acknowledge the joy.
They fully acknowledge it. Falling in love, feeling a sense of belonging to a nation, or finding purpose in a religion provides an intense emotional high. But the warning is that this sweetness is always a transaction.
A transaction where we are the ones paying.
Precisely. You're trading your ultimate limitless autonomy for temporary earthly comfort. The bait is delicious, but it always conceals a hook.
I see.
You get the warmth of a family, but you also inherit the endless household responsibilities, the financial burdens, and the potential for an agonizing divorce. You get the pride of a nation, but you inherit its historical enemies, its economic downturns, and its future wars.
So the author is demanding that you calculate the true long-term cost of that sweetness.
Exactly.
So assuming we have taken the bait, we have made that transaction and enjoyed the sweetness, why is it so incredibly difficult to leave once we realize we are stuck?
It's a great question.
If I join a political party and realize I hate the ideology, why does it feel so agonizing to just walk away?
Well, that difficulty is an intentional design feature. The author addresses this by examining the fundamental asymmetry of traps.
Asymmetry.
Yeah. They are engineered to be completely frictionless on the way in and covered in barbed wire on the way out. We suffer from a psychological blind spot where we only calculate the entry cost, completely ignoring the exit cost.
The analogies used here are brilliantly clear. Like, it is joyous and easy to get married, but incredibly complex and emotionally devastating to get divorced.
Right. Or it's thrilling to start climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
But the descent is where your legs give out and the real danger begins.
It's so true. It is filled with optimism to open a new business, but shutting it down, liquidating the assets, dealing with the fallout, that's agonizing.
Expanding on that idea, the author explains the structural, cosmic necessity of these traps. The universe itself operates as a grand sorting mechanism.
A sorting mechanism, how so?
The text states plainly that while everyone wants to go to heaven, that is an impossibility. Someone has to remain human. Some consciousness must inhabit the animal kingdom. There must be a system to distribute souls across these different realms.
Which brings us to the role of Satan in this framework.
Yes. The author states that Satan must dig these traps to ensnare confused individuals. But we shouldn't view Satan here merely as a biblical villain in the traditional sense.
Right, it's not the guy with the pitchfork.
No, rather, it's described almost as an ecological necessity. It is a force of gravity, ensuring the universe doesn't become top-heavy with enlightened beings.
Wow.
The traps catch those who are easily lured by the earthly bait, ensuring they lose their freedom, and thereby keeping the population balance of the cosmic realms intact.
When people feel the jaws of those traps closing, their first instinct is physical escape.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. The author illustrates this perfectly. People living in poverty-stricken countries flee across borders to developed nations to escape economic constraints. Fugitives run to remote wildernesses to avoid prison.
There's a great proverb referenced here. The sky is high and the emperor is far away.
I love that one. The logic is that if you can just put enough physical distance between yourself and the center of power, you can carve out a pocket of freedom.
Yet the author immediately zooms out and shatters that illusion of safety. They point out that even if you flee to the most remote, ungoverned corner of the globe, you are still standing on Earth.
And Earth itself is a macro trap.
Yes. The text mentions the inescapable anxieties surrounding the destruction of Earth's ecological resources and the looming future crises facing humanity as a whole.
You can run from a bad marriage, you can cross an ocean to flee a dictatorship,
Right.
but you cannot outrun the ecological collapse of the planet. So I have a logistical question. If the Earth itself is a trap, is the author suggesting the only way to achieve freedom is to physically launch ourselves into space? Like, how can we escape the Earth while our feet are still planted on the ground?
It's a fair question. But a physical escape, like a fugitive fleeing a government or an immigrant crossing a border, is just the first, most rudimentary level of understanding freedom.
So spaceships aren't the answer.
True liberation doesn't require a spaceship. It requires a fundamental shift in consciousness. If the physical realm is entirely enclosed by traps, the only viable exit door must be psychological.
Which brings us to the ultimate and perhaps most challenging solution offered by the author. They share a personal dream trick.
The invisibility concept.
Right. In their dreams, when they sense danger or feel uncomfortable in a certain environment, they simply become invisible. They claim to disappear completely, making it impossible for humans, animals, or even deity celestial beings to locate them.
Now, while it sounds like mysticism or magic, we have to ground this concept in its practical application for waking life. This invisibility is a metaphor for profound, radical detachment.
Detachment.
Yes. It is about actively repositioning your mind relative to the structures around you.
How do we actually do that? The listener is probably wondering, if I am sitting at the dinner table with my family, how do I practice invisibility without just becoming an emotionally shut down, cold person?
Well, the author provides a blueprint for exactly that. It's not about emotional numbness. It is about shifting your vantage point. If you observe the events in a family from outside the mental construct of marriage, you won't be troubled by the petty arguments.
You step back.
Right. You still love the people, but you don't allow your identity to be entirely consumed by the role of spouse or parent. If you watch the dramas of religions and political parties from outside those ideological domains, the conflicts suddenly look like entertaining theater.
Entertaining theater. The text introduces this concept of observing the changes on Earth from the realm of the thousand-year world.
The thousand-year world is a conceptual vantage point. Imagine having a perspective that spans a millennium.
1,000 years.
From that height, a political election, a stock market crash, or a neighborhood dispute looks like a microscopic ripple in a vast ocean. By stepping back psychologically into that broader perspective, you become invisible to the emotional pull of the immediate traps.
You attain what the author calls a blissful heart because you are no longer collateral damage in everyone else's localized wars.
Beautifully put.
Now, the author fully anticipates the immediate criticism this philosophy invites. They know the reader will react, writing, "You may think I am too heartless and unkind, lacking compassion, right?"
And they turn that judgment directly back onto the reader.
Yeah, they do. They point out that every single day, countless livestock and poultry are slaughtered for food. Plants and insects are crushed. People perish in hospitals, in their homes, or under the wheels of cars.
It is a profound mirror to hold up to our everyday hypocrisy. What do we do in the face of all that global death? We eat our dinners, we laugh with our friends, we sleep soundly. We are all already heartless to the traps we aren't personally caught in.
That is wow.
If we truly, deeply felt the agony of every dying insect and every hospital patient on Earth simultaneously, our nervous systems would literally shut down. We only invoke the word compassion when the suffering belongs to a trap we are familiar with or heavily invested in.
The author is stripping away our moral high ground, basically saying, do not judge my intentional universal detachment when you practice selective detachment every single day just to function.
And this selective detachment ties directly into what the author describes as the evolutionary program of the Tao.
The Tao.
The Tao, in this context, is the underlying operating system of the universe. The author states unequivocally, you cannot change history. You cannot change death. You cannot rewrite the Tao's programming.
So you shouldn't try to fix it.
Right. Therefore, the goal is not to fight the system or try to fix the traps from the inside. The goal is to escape.
The text highlights a harsh, practical reality. Those who cannot save themselves cannot save others. A poor person cannot write a check to give financial aid, and a prisoner locked in a cell cannot free another prisoner.
You must secure your own psychological freedom first. Interestingly, the author notes that only when you are fully awakened and completely detached can you safely interact with the traps again.
Like going back in.
The text describes this as infiltrating the enemy's ranks to save someone, or descending from heaven in disguise to carry out a specific plan. Once you have mastered invisibility, it doesn't matter if you physically reside inside a family, a political party, or a nation.
Because you're free on the inside.
Exactly. You preserve your internal freedom because you know you're just an actor on a stage, and you can mentally exit the play at any given moment.
So what does this all mean? It makes me think of the classic airplane safety briefing. You know, you are told to secure your own oxygen mask before assisting the person next to you.
Right, the oxygen mask rule.
But the author's philosophy takes that concept to a radical extreme. They're suggesting you shouldn't waste your energy trying to fix the engines of the plane as it's going down. You just need to realize you were never actually bound to the fuselage in the first place. You can simply observe the turbulence from a state of total untethered invisibility.
That is the ultimate takeaway. The physical reality of your day-to-day life might look entirely unchanged to an outside observer.
Yeah.
You might still drive to work, pay your taxes, and sit at the dinner table with your family.
But internally.
Internally, your spirit is awake and your heart is unburdened.
Yeah.
You are no longer trading your fundamental autonomy for the sweetness of belonging. You are participating in the world, but you are fundamentally not of it.
It is a staggering journey this philosophy takes us on. We started by mapping out the 36 arrays of invisible traps that define our society.
We really covered a lot of ground.
We examined the intoxicating sweetness that compels us to voluntarily walk into those cages and trade our freedom for comfort. We looked at the cosmic asymmetry that makes leaving so agonizing.
And finally, we explored the radical, demanding practice of cultivating psychological invisibility to maintain a blissful heart amidst global chaos.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final implication of this philosophy to consider. The text presents absolute universal detachment as the highest form of personal liberation.
It's a bold claim.
But we have to ask ourselves, if every single human being on Earth successfully achieved this total detachment tomorrow, if we all simultaneously cut our emotional anchors to our nations, to our communities, and to the transactional sweetness of human relationships, would that ultimate freedom actually look like a paradise? Or would a world of entirely invisible, detached observers simply be a state of profound, absolute isolation?
That is a question that will absolutely change how you look at your interactions today.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your eyes open, continually question the architecture of the structures you inhabit, and pay very close attention to the specific sweetness you are being offered. We will see you next time. You can unlock the door to the escape room now.